So today we look at two-dimensional problems in polar coordinates. Problems in polar coordinates. Okay, so basically we will look at how to use this Airy stress function approach that so I have derived the Gurney equations for the Airy stress function. Now we will look at how to apply this Airy stress function approach for two-dimensional problems in polar coordinates. Okay, so there the Gurney equation will be del tau r by del r plus 1 by r times del tau r theta by del theta plus tau r minus tau theta theta by r plus rho times dr equal to 0. So this Gurney equations you have already derived in one of your homework, right? So let me write the other one also. So this is by del theta plus del tau theta by del r plus 2 times tau r theta by r plus rho times d theta equal to 0. So this is these are the Gurney equations and two-dimensional. So that means we are considering this to be plane stress or plane strain, right? So the z any stress component that involves a z will be absent. So that means tau rz, tau theta z, tau zz, all of them will be 0, right? Because this is the plane stress or plane strain assumption. So this is of course in plane strain actually tau zz is not 0, but we don't need to consider it. So that can be computed using mu times tau rr plus tau theta theta. So here we just need to consider these two equations. Rho times Vr we will write as del V by del R, and rho times d theta is equal to del V by del R times del theta. So we are assuming that the body forces are conservative, just like we assume them to be conservative while deriving the Gurney equation. So same assumption we are making in this particular case here. And then if you find out the components of the stress in terms of the Airy stress function, then you will get V plus tau r is equal to 1 by r times del phi by del r plus 1 by r square times del square phi by del theta square, and V plus tau theta theta is equal to del square phi by del r square. Okay, so these relations actually can be derived using tensor analysis. So that part, I mean, exactly how to derive this, we will not go into the details of that, because you have seen in your test, for example, right, that how we found out the components of the stress in terms of the Airy stress function. So I think one of the test problems was that. So actually using the tensorial expressions in a curvilinear coordinate system, we can derive these expressions. Okay, so you can take a look at some of these appendices for cylindrical coordinate system and all that. So there the tensorial expressions are given for del square or del and things like that. All those operators are given. So using those operators you can find out what the components of the stress are in terms of the Airy stress function here. Fine. And then tau r theta is also is equal to 1 by r square del phi by del theta minus 1 by r times del square phi by del r del theta, and this is also equal to minus del by del r of 1 by r times del phi by del theta. And okay, so these are the three relations in terms of the Airy stress function. So I mean, if you recall, for our Cartesian system, it was tau xx is del square phi by del y square and so on. So these relations are analogous to the relations for a Cartesian coordinate system here, right? Okay, then so if I now write these equilibrium equations in terms of this eddy stress function, then I will see that these two equations will be automatically satisfied. So if I substitute, for example, tau r as this particular expression and then the tau theta theta expression in this, then you will see that these two expressions are, or these two governing equations are automatically satisfied, right? So that is the whole idea behind the air stress function approach. And then the governing equation will be the del raised to 4 phi equal to 0, right? That we have seen both in the class also and in the test problem also. So, so what you will get, so if you recall, we had this particular thing, right? Del square of trace of tau is equal to 0. So this was the governing equation. And now if you take plane stress, right? So take plane stress. So if you consider the case of plane stress, then trace of tau is equal to tau r plus tau theta theta. So that is the equation here. Okay, here I have not included the body forces. So this I will just modify 1 plus nu del dot rho v. So this actually, if there are body forces, then we need to modify. If there are no body forces, then actually the right hand side is 0. Fine. Now, so if I now substitute, the equation. So trace of tau is itself del square of phi, right? And so you will get del square of del square phi is equal to this. So that is del raised to 4 phi will be equal to this. So if I now write these equations, so I will get the following form here. So let me just write it. So let us write this particular thing. So del square by del r square plus 1 by r del by del r plus 1 by r square del square by del theta square times del square phi by del r square plus 1 by r del phi by del r plus 1 by r square del square phi by del theta square is equal to 0. So this will be the governing equation. So this is nothing but del square of phi. Right? This is del square of phi, and then this is again your del square operator. So this is del square of del square phi is equal to 0. Or this is the biharmonic equation. So that is del raised to 4 phi is equal to 0. So this is what you will get after you substitute it into this governing equation. Again, sorry about this. Again, I should have minus of 1 plus nu del dot rho b. Sorry about that. This is so if you include the body force, then actually it is not 0. But if the body forces are 0, then of course this right hand side is equal to 0 here. Right, and then let us see. So this actually, if you simplify, then this will become 1 minus nu times 1 by r times del v by del r plus del square v by del r square plus 1 by r square times del square v by del theta square. So actually this you remove. I'm sorry, this one is not correct actually. So this is the correct expression. Sorry about that. So you will get that del raised to 4 phi is this particular expression, where the v is the potential corresponding to the body force. So and the strain components are given by epsilon r is equal to del ur by del r, then epsilon theta theta is equal to 1 by r del u theta by del theta plus ur by r, and gamma r theta is equal to 1 by r del ur by del theta minus u r by r, sorry, u theta by r plus del u theta by del r. So these are the expressions. So actually all these expressions are listed in the book. You need not memorize any of these expressions. I will give them in any of the exams and things like that if required. So right. So if you want the plane strain case, okay, here. So for plane strain strain, replace nu by 1. So that is the standard thing that we do. So here this nu will be replaced by that. So this is the plane stress expression, that del raised to 4 feet is equal to 1 minus nu for this one. So here also actually not 0. So this is your del raised to 4 feet should be this if there is a body force present. Okay, then what about the stress strain relation, right? So the stress strain relation, epsilon rr is equal to 1 by E times tau rr minus mu times tau theta theta, and the epsilon theta theta is equal to 1 by E times tau theta theta minus mu times tau rr, and gamma r theta is equal to 1 by mu tau r theta. So here instead of mu you can also put g, that is the shear modulus. It's the same thing. This is the Lame parameter, the mu, or it is also equal to g, which is the shear modulus here. So you can see that, this aspect I have already mentioned earlier when we were discussing these things, that the form of the constant relation will look the same as in the Cartesian thing, because there is no differentiation involved, right? So here, for example, I had epsilon xx is equal to 1 by E times tau xx minus mu times tau yy, right? So you can see that this equation, just if I replace this xx by rr and then xx by rr and then yy by theta theta, I get this particular equation, right? So that, that is because we are now considering, so this is your x and this is your y and this is your r direction and this is your theta direction, right? And this is your theta, for example. So see, locally it is like a Cartesian system, locally. And so when there is no differentiation involved, then the form will look exactly the same in the two kinds of systems. But whenever there is differentiation involved, like for example in the strain displacement relation, then because then what will happen is that ER, that is suppose the unit vector along this, will be a function of theta, and E theta will also be a function of theta. And so then these unit vectors also get differentiated. That is why there are additional terms like this UR by R and things like that. So as I said that don't worry about those additional, don't worry in the sense that you don't need to memorize these additional terms. So I will give you these expressions if required. But these are then finally the expressions that you get. So again, the derivations are there in one of the appendices of the book, like where I have given all the cylindrical coordinates, spherical coordinates and so on. The derivations are given there if you are interested in those things. But right now let us just take these expressions, right? And then the transformation law is given by, so if you want to transform from Cartesian to polar coordinates, then we also know that this tau bar is equal to q times tau times q transform, right? So if you give me the components in the Cartesian system, so this will be tau xx, tau xy, tau xy, tau yy, right? And then this one will be tau rr, tau r theta, tau r theta, and tau theta. Right? So this is how you can transform. And then q is that cos theta, sin theta, the usual orthogonal tensor that transforms from one basis to the other basis, right? That EI bar dot EJ formula that we derived in the tensor analysis part. So you can transform from the Cartesian stress components to the polar component, and then the reverse relation is also just multiply this by Q transpose on this side and Q on this side, then you will get tau also. So you can always go back and forth between the Cartesian components and the polar components using this particular relation here, right? So I think this sets up the whole problem. So to summarize, basically we want, if we now solve for a field, right, the area stress function which satisfies this particular equation, then automatically the equations of equilibrium and the equations of compatibility are satisfied, correct? So we don't have to worry about it, right? Just I need to find a field that satisfies this particular equation, and then once I find the field, then I will plug that into the expressions for the stresses, right? The stress and the relation between the stress and the area stress function, I will just plug it into that. Then I will get the stress components, right? And then once you from the stress components, you will find the strain components. Then you will integrate those strain components to find the displacement components using these relations. So that is the procedure by which we can find all the fields. That means displacement, strain, stresses in a given particular problem here. Fine. So now let us look at certain examples here. So let's see. Okay. So just to give you a flavor of the solution here. Okay. What does the solution look like? So just to give you some idea about this solution. So actually, suppose if Z is a complex variable, complex variable, okay, and this Z you can write as R e to the I theta, okay, and if you take Z to the n, so n is some index, so Z to the n is equal to R e to the I theta raised to n, which is equal to R to the n e to the I n theta. Okay, and this is equal to R to the n cos n theta plus R to the n sin n theta. So this is I n theta. So basically from this particular relation, you may have studied this in your complex variable class in the maths course or in your fluid mechanics course, that the, this should be I, so there should be an I here. Yeah. So in that class you must have studied that the real and the imaginary parts of a complex valued analytic function are both harmonic, correct? So here these R raised to n cos n theta and R raised to n sin n theta automatically will satisfy del square of phi. Suppose if I take this to be phi, suppose if you take phi to be R to the n cos n theta or R to the n sin n theta, then del square phi is equal to 0. Right? So these are harmonic functions, right? So the real and the imaginary parts of any complex valued analytic function are automatically harmonic, correct? And then we can also show that if phi is a harmonic function, then R square times phi is also a harmonic, is a biharmonic function. Sorry. So if phi is harmonic, then R square phi is biharmonic. So one can show that. Okay, so this basically all these things can be used to construct the solution. So the solution will look something like this. So phi will be equal to summation of a to the n r to the n cos n theta plus bn r to the n sin n theta plus cn r to the n times cos of n minus 2 theta plus dn this is n running from minus infinity to plus infinity, plus there are additional terms also. So I am not going into all the details plus additional terms. As I said, that I will not expect you to find this Airy stress function from scratch, but this is just to give you an idea about how to derive the general form of the Airy stress function, which is biharmonic. So this phi will be a biharmonic function. So this is biharmonic function, because as I said that first we found that r to the n cos n theta and r to the n sin n theta are harmonic. So those are sitting here, right? So r to the n cos n theta and r to the n sin n theta, these are harmonic functions. If a function is harmonic, it is automatically biharmonic, okay? And then these are the functions which are that, as I said, r square times phi, okay? But only thing is, we have, instead of writing it as r to the n plus 2, I could have written it as r to the n plus 2 cos n theta, but because this is an infinite series, right, I can also write it as r to the n cos of n minus 2 theta, and that is what I have done here. And then now these are functions that are biharmonic but not harmonic, okay? So once we construct this full set, now this is the solution or a fairly general solution to the biharmonic equation here, okay? And then there are additional terms also, so I will not go into those additional terms at this particular stage here. Okay, so once you find this phi, then we will find, as I said, then we will find tau r is equal to 1 by r square of del square phi by del theta square plus 1 by r of del phi by del r. So those equations I have already given you, but I am just writing them again here. Tau theta theta is equal to del square phi by del r square, and now r theta is minus del by del r del theta of tau phi by r. So this we have already, I had already written these equations, but I am just writing. So once you find, so what you do is you start with a general expression for phi, then you can see now these, once you assume phi to be of this particular form, it automatically satisfies the equations of equilibrium and the compatibility relations, right? And so all I need to do is worry about the boundary conditions. So now these constants are found so as to satisfy the boundary conditions, right? And then we know the entire solution, because once then the phi is determined, then now you find out what the stress components are, right, from using this relation. Then from that you find out what are the strain components. Then you integrate the strain displacement relations to find out what are the displacement components. So that way the complete solution can be found. So okay, let us look at certain examples, so that will make this whole procedure very clear. Okay, fine. So first let us take the simple case where the phi depends only on r. Right? So let us look at that case first. So stress function phi depends only on r. So basically we are looking only at some certain class of problems where the stress function depends only on r. So we are not saying that in all problems phi is going to be a function of r. So in general phi will be a function of r and theta, but we are looking only at certain problems where the phi can be taken to be a function of r alone. Okay, so that means phi is equal to phi of r. Okay, so basically you can say that this is axially symmetric. Symmetric problem. Okay, so that means there is no dependence on theta. But here we can still allow for the displacements to be dependent on theta. Displacements can still depend on theta, can depend on theta. So see, phi depends on r, and then the stress components are derivatives of the area stress function, right? And so the stress components will also be a function of r alone, so they will not be a function of theta. But now the strain components, once you integrate to find the displacement components, then that can be a function of theta. Right? So that's why we say that the displacements can still depend on theta also. Fine. Then now, so let's see now. So basically, let's write the equations now for this particular case. So you will get now that tau r is equal to 1 by r d phi by dr minus v. Then tau theta theta is equal to d square phi by dr square minus v, and tau r theta is equal to 0 in this particular case. So if you make this simplifying assumption that the phi depends only on r, then you will get this simplification, right? So the tau r theta just goes to 0. So that's why it is said to be axially symmetric case. Then the biharmonic equation will reduce to the following equation: d raised to 4 phi by dr raised to 4 plus 2 by r times d cube phi by dr cube minus 1 by r square times d square phi by dr square plus 1 by r square, r cube d phi by dr is equal to 1 minus mu by r d by dr of r times dv by dr. So this v is the potential for the body force, and so this is r and this is v. So this is dv by dr. So this is the governing equation now for v. Okay, and we can now find the solution, the general solution for this particular situation. So let us do that. So what you will get now is that if you solve this particular differential equation, so I will not go into the details about how to solve this particular differential equation. So that you will learn in your ODE course. So basically you will have to substitute r as e to the t or e to the u, and then use a chain rule. This equation will simplify, and then you can find it out easily. So we will not go into the details about how to solve this particular differential equation that you will learn in some of your other courses. So I will just simply state the solution. So v is equal to a log r plus b r square times log r plus c r square plus d plus 1 minus mu divide from integral from 0 to r 1 by theta of 0 to eta of r of xi times d xi. Sorry, this is b of xi times d e. So this is so actually the solution to this differential equation consists of a homogeneous solution. So this up to here is the homogeneous solution, and this is the inhomogeneous solution, right? And then you can superpose, because this is a linear equation. You can superpose these two solutions, and this is what you will get. So if you basically this part here, you have to integrate that potential, right, associated with the body force. So this is v of xi times d xi, and then the integration limits are from 0 to eta. Then you divide that by eta, and then again integrate that with respect to eta from 0 to r. So this will give you a function of r basically again, and so that is the contribution due to the body force. Okay, so this is the general solution of phi for this particular situation where the phi is a function of r alone. And then now you can derive what the stress components are corresponding to this. So you will get that v plus tau rr is equal to 1 by r times V by dr. So this will give me that tau r is equal to A by r square plus B times 1 plus 2 log r plus 2c times plus 1 minus mu by r square integral from 0 to r of V of xi times dz. So this is the expression for the stress component tau r. Okay. Then let's see. There should be. This is V plus tau r. I'm sorry about that. So there should be, because this is V plus tau r, and then 1 by r dv by dr is whatever is written on this particular side here. So just rewrite this. So this is implies. And then similarly, we will get V plus tau theta theta is equal to minus A by r square plus B times 3 plus 2 log r plus 2c plus 1 minus mu times del by del r of 1 by r times 0 to r of V of xi times dz. So this is the expression for the tau theta. So you don't have to memorize, as I keep repeating, that you don't have to memorize all of these relations here. We are just trying to set up the whole thing here. Fine. Okay, then let's see. So let me try to simplify some of these things here. Okay. So if you just take the case of uniform tension or compression, right? Then in that case, you will get that tau r equal to tau theta theta equal to 2c. So that will be the only contribution if you have a uniform tension or compression. So let's write that. So uniform tension or compression. So what we mean is that suppose if you take a circular disc like this, and then you just you have you are uniformly like a hydrostatic state of stress, right? Hydrostatic state of stress. You're just applying a uniform traction on the whole boundary there. Then in that case, you get tau r is equal to tau theta theta equal to 2c, and that is this constant here. And then suppose if this is p, then that is equal to p, right? Because tau r is equal to p on this one, and then c will turn out to be p by 2 in that particular case here. So you can see that this particular thing can be now recovered from this solution. So basically your A, B, D and all these other things are 0 in that particular case, right? And then this is what you will get. Then let us write the constitutive relation here. So let's write the strain displacement, the stress strain relation. Let's see what we get. Yes, so we will get that epsilon r is equal to 1 by E times 1 plus mu times A by r square plus 1 minus 3 mu times B plus 2 times 1 minus mu times B log r plus 2 times 1 minus mu times C plus the 1 by E times AR minus mu times A theta. So here this AR and A theta, let me just define that. So AR is equal to 1 minus mu divided by R square integral of 0 to R V of xi times d xi minus V. And A theta is equal to 1 minus mu times d by dr of integral of 0 to R of V of xi times xi d xi minus d by, sorry, this should be here, d by dr minus v. So this is yes. So these are the expressions that you get for AR and E theta. So this is for the body force contribution. So that body force contribution you are adding through these particular terms here. Then similarly, you will get epsilon theta theta is equal to 1 by E of minus 1 plus mu times A by R square plus 3 minus mu times B plus 2 into 1 minus mu times B log R plus 2 into 1 minus mu times C plus 1 by E times A theta minus mu times AR. Okay, so this is now the and gamma r theta is 0. Gamma r theta is equal to 0. Okay. So now what you have to do is that now you have to integrate the strain displacement relation in order to get the displacements from these relations here. Okay. So from the strain displacement relations, so from the strain displacement relations, what you will get is that UR is equal to 1 by E times minus of 1 plus mu A by R plus 2 into 1 minus mu times B R log R minus 1 plus mu times BR plus 2 into 1 minus mu times CR and plus K cos theta plus H sin theta, and your U theta is equal to 4 BR theta divided by E plus FR minus K sin theta plus H sin theta. So you can see that that is what I mentioned right at the beginning of this class, that your phi is a function of R, hence the stresses are also only functions of R, but your displacements can be functions of R and theta. So you can see that now there are these additional terms that have theta in them, right? So this associated with these constants K and H. So, so you can see that they depend on this one here. Yes. So let's see. Fine. So, so these are the expressions for the displacements in the plane stress case. So these are for the plane stress. And if you want plane strain, then as usual replace E by 1 minus nu square and nu by 1 minus nu. So that is the usual thing that we do. So for plane strain, we just find it. So for plane strain, replace E nu divided by 1 minus nu. Correct? So then once you carry out these replacements, then you can go to the plane strain solution from the plane stress solution that we have written here. Fine. So what are some of the simplifications that can result if you have a solid disk, right? So suppose if there is no hole at the origin, then you can see that, there are these terms like log r, right? And so they can just blow up, right, at the origin. And so you have to not allow a singularity at the origin here, right? So that is why this A and B, you can take it to be 0. So let me just write that. Just give me 1 second here. Yeah. So if there is no hole in the origin, there is no hole at the origin, okay, then A is equal to B is equal to 0, right? Because since R, or 1 by R, and log R tend to infinity as R tends to 0, right? So, when so suppose if you take this particular problem here, right? So your displacements and the stresses should both be finite at this. So because we are considering just normal loads. I mean, we are not considering some point loads, or we are not considering the presence of some crack or something like that. So if you have a crack, then actually the stresses can go to infinity, but we will not talk about that particular case here. But imagine that there is no such crack, and just at the origin your displacements and stresses should both remain bounded, right, as R tends to 0. But both these terms, 1 by R and log R, they tend to infinity as R tends to 0, and hence your A and B should be set to 0, right? So that your displacement field and the stress field should remain finite at the origin. Okay? And then you can determine the other constants using the boundary conditions in that particular problem here. Right. Yes. So let us just consider the case. So we have discussed this body force case in the case of a spinning disk. So I will just briefly indicate how to go about solving this particular problem here. Yes. So if you have a spinning disk, right? So this is something that I have discussed earlier also. So this is the spinning disk. So this is rotating at some omega, and then if you take a point at some distance r, right? Then we have said that in the rotating frame of reference, now I can consider this as a statics problem, because imagine that the disk has reached to some steady state. So steady state means the omega is a constant. So this omega is a constant. The omega dot is equal to 0. That means omega dot is equal to 0. And also that these particles, each of these particles is fixed with respect to the rotating frame of reference. Right? So imagine now that these coordinate axes are also rotating, and with respect to this rotating coordinate axis, each point on this disk is fixed. That means it is not moving either radially or tangentially, right? And so you can consider, so after things reach to some steady state, then this problem can be considered as a statics problem in the rotating frame of reference, right? And so it is most conveniently solved using the rotating frame of reference. So in this rotating disk problem, rotating disk problem, we will take V to be half of rho r square omega square. So that means your rho times dr will be equal to rho idea here. So that is just del V by del R. So that will give me rho R omega square. So basically we will write now del dot tau, right, plus the R component plus rho R omega square is equal to 0. Right? In the static framework, this will be the Laurent equation in the R direction, and then similarly in the theta direction we can write it. And then we will use the Airy stress function approach now to solve this particular problem. So we are going to assume this disk to be thin, right? And so we can apply the plane stress assumption in this particular case. And also it is a radially symmetric problem, right? This is a radially symmetric problem, right? Radially symmetric problem in the sense that there is no displacement in the theta direction, because we are assuming that it has reached to some steady state. See, if in the beginning, once if the disk suddenly starts rotating, there will be a u theta component, but we are assuming that there is internal damping in the material, so that u theta goes to 0, correct, over time, and then things have reached to some steady state, so that there is no u theta component. So basically, your u theta is equal to 0, right, at steady state, and so u r is the only component for which we have to solve for. And then now, because of these assumptions, you will get that phi is equal to phi of r. And so we will be able to solve this problem within the framework that I have just discussed, that phi is a function of r, and then we will try to find a solution for this rotating disk in the following classes.